Welcome to Labor's View. This show is brought to you by the very hardworking and dedicated employees of the Essex County Division of Welfare, and our members are members of CWA Local 1081, Communication Workers of America. I'm David Weiner, president of the local and host of Labor's View. Today we have as our guest someone I've known many, many years. We both say too many. Mm-hmm. Her name is Sandra Accomando, aka Sandy. How are you, Sandy?
I'm doing great.
Okay, and Sandy is the CEO of a wonderful institution called the Apostles House.
Yes.
It's located in Newark on Grant Avenue by lovely
Grant Street
by lovely 280 overpass, as we'll hear.
Yes.
And how many years have you been CEO now?
Here, 19.
19 years. Because Sandy used to be with the Division of Welfare,
Yes.
and in fact was my supervisor at one time.
Yes, I was.
Was that a good
And I
worker?
survived.
Yeah, I wasn't around much anyway. And I also used to be on the Board of Trustees,
Yes.
actually before you
Yes.
were CEO.
Yes.
And I actually chaired the board, so there's a long history here. What is the history of the Apostles House? What is the Apostles House?
We were founded in 1984. It was a collaboration of 6 Episcopal churches, 3 suburban churches, 3 Newark churches. And they were a little prescient in seeing the need for a multi-purpose social service agency. And we started out as a parent aid program to do in-home case management with DIFAS clients. And then we progressed and we added a shelter and food pantry and various other transitional housing. Yeah. And we've been very fortunate, and our commitment is to have our clients be better off when they leave than when they came, and to provide a wide array of services, but also encourage self-sufficiency.
So social services to at-risk families, is there a fair way of putting it?
Homeless and at-risk families, because the shelter is actually, of course, a residential facility.
Okay. Let's talk about it. What goes on at the shelter?
Well, the shelter can range from 32 to 42 people, depending on configuration, babies, adults, etc. And we have on-site services there, including mental health program. We have case management. We have visiting experts come in and talk to the women. And basically, we're there to support the women as they try to move from dependency on the welfare system, or many of them have experienced trauma and have some mental health issues. So we work with them on the mental health issues. We work with them trying to get them back to work. And most importantly of all, we try to find them affordable housing, which, as you know, David, is like hen's teeth. But in the past year and a half, we've been able to place 41 families in subsidized housing by developing relationships with housing developers and using all the systems that are at our disposal. It could be low-income housing tax credit. It could be a Section 8 voucher. So we're very proud of that, because if you don't move someone from the shelter into affordable housing, they're going to be back, because the math just doesn't work. So.
And this is a 24/7.
24/7, 3 meals a day. It's semi-private. Some families may have a room to themselves, depending on the configuration of the population. We do also there have a program with the Administrative Office of the Courts, which is women who are ready for early release under the Intensive Supervision Program. We provide housing for them.
Now, theoretically, would that population increase based upon the governor's plan for releasing, or not even incarcerating, I guess, at times, drug offenders rather than incarcerating?
I'm not really sure, because these are, what we have now is women who have been in prison
They've been adjudicated.
They've been adjudicated, been in prison. And as a result of good behavior or the type of charges, they're ready to come out and be in supervision in the community. They still have probation officer, and they have really strict rules that they need to adhere to. And if they don't, they go right back to jail.
By the way, is it really hard to find hen's teeth? What?
Yes.
Then why?
Because hens don't have teeth.
Oh, they don't?
No.
Oh. They just gum things?
Yeah.
Oh,
no, they have their beak and they, sort of tear stuff apart.
I just wondered how that came
Yeah.
up. All right, transitional housing.
Okay,
That's
that's the next step.
Next step.
And those are 15 apartment units.
Right.
And once the family is stabilized in the shelter or in another emergency facility, they're referred to transitional housing. Originally, maybe 19, 20 years ago, the program was with the county, with the state. And if the family completed the program, so to speak, they were given a Section 8 voucher. Well, unfortunately, Section 8 vouchers are like hen's teeth. And so that program eventually just went by the wayside. So, but now...
to be clear, Section 8 vouchers pay for a portion of the rent. They
pay for 70% of the rent.
And the 30 has to come from the client.
Right.
Okay.
Right. And then it's the next step, because once the client's been stabilized, they then go into their own apartment. So that leads to the next step of independence. They have to prepare their own food. They have to keep their apartments clean. We do room checks. There's curfews. And they must be in some sort of a program, either through welfare or on their own, going to school, maybe working part-time, whatever. It's not a sit home and enjoy, as some people think. It's just wonderful to be.
Well, there are no more soap operas. That used to be the old axiom, the soap operas.
The soap opera queens. But, I hear so many people talk about, they just want to be. Believe me, it's a lot of work. It's not easy to be on assistance.
Especially as little as
$322.
For a family?
They have two. And that hasn't changed, 1987?
1987.
Which is absolutely ridiculous. So if anybody thinks that this is a free ride, I dare them to live on $322.
I agree.
Including your rent, and phones. That's not a luxury anymore.
No. Now, what about your food pantry?
Our food pantry.
I know you're inundated.
As a result of funding cuts, we've had to curtail the hours. We used to be the only food pantry in Essex County that was open 5 days a week from 8 to 4. But I've had to do layoffs, and we've had to, really tighten our belts. So we've had to restrict. What we're doing is we're having Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday from 10 to 2. But the problem we have there is we can't keep food in stock. I mean, we used to go to the food bank and get food
over in Hillside.
That would last us maybe 3 weeks, 4 weeks, maybe even a month. It's gone in like 4 days. An increase in first-time users, as you would expect. We can't keep up with the demand.
You said you're losing money. Before we went on the air, you mentioned, I didn't know, you lost your Ryan White money.
Right.
Which was money dedicated.
Well, and that was, we're hoping that come, when we're going to apply again, and hopefully we'll be able to re-enter that program.
Now, when I was, I think, still on the board, we planned for, and it took several years, to put together the multi-generational home.
Yes.
How's that going? And what is it?
That program has been closed.
Closed. Oh.
That was a program that worked.
Idea.
Yes, it worked. What it was teenage moms and their babies. It was a residential facility, a transitional facility, and There was a population of 6 girls and their babies. But we had a really difficult time getting referrals. I don't know why, because I've spoken since then to so many DIFAS workers, and we get calls all the time of people who want to put teenage moms in there. But we got to the point where at one point we had only 2 girls in there.
Now, the referrals would come from
DIFAS,
which is now DCF.
Is it? Oh.
Yeah, they changed their name, so everybody changes their names.
I know. Yeah.
And so, have you spoken to higher ups rather than just the workers?
We tried. We met with the people, and the people in the county really tried to get us some help. Basically, it was we got paid per diem for the girls that were there. Mm-hmm. And it was a very labor-intensive program because the regulations required at least 2 people on every shift. They had very high educational requirements, yeah. And it basically, because it was really a sort of a program that, it was really the only one in northern New Jersey. There's one in southern New Jersey, but that was for girls with HIV. So, and the fact that there were infants there, so it was really labor intensive. I mean, the regulations for this program were onerous. It was very, very difficult. It was a difficult, expensive program to run, but
so
it worked.
Is the building empty? Or?
The building is empty, and we're looking to sell it.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Family preservation.
That's what our new program, right. New parent aid program.
Okay, and what's that about?
Well, the referrals for that program come from DCF, Division of Children and Families.
Right.
And basically, it's families that have been identified as potential abuse problems. It hasn't actually reached that problem, and we intervene to try and keep the family together, instead of having the children taken out and put in foster placement. And
which is far more costly.
Oh yeah, that program is 28 years it's running, and we have about an 85% success ratio in keeping the families together.
How's the funding for that looking?
The funding is, we get a little, maybe 3% increase each year, but what they pay us doesn't pay for the program. Not to do the program, but the excellence that we do it. So we have to go find funding for that someplace else. One of the places we do, we're very fortunate, and the Victoria Foundation is very helpful with that.
They have been for years.
Yeah, all years, yeah.
What's the Aftercare program? Now, it seems sequential, the way we're doing it.
It is.
So now we're talking about...
Aftercare program originally was funded through HUD, Housing and Urban Development, through their Continuum of Care program. But about 5 years ago, HUD made changes in that they didn't want to fund services-only programs. And the county made a determination...
Essex County?
Yes, Essex County made a determination not to fund or accept applications for services only. Because of the way the funding scored, you lose money if you do services only. They want to do bricks and mortar, build new, renovate, whatever. So that program lost its funding. But it's based on the concept of the family preservation, which is in-home case management, based on the client 4 to 6 hours a week, maybe less.
Trying to
it's to keep the supportive services. Right. Because when I first came here, I saw people that really thrived with the structure and the shelter, and the minute they went back into the community, it was gone. Right. So this way we continue to work with them in the home, make sure the kids are going to school, make sure they're paying their rent, and just keeping them, maybe sometimes the only support they have. They may not have family that they can go to.
Yeah, it's interesting because we were discussing before, I'm on the Workforce Investment Board and the One Stop in Essex County, and we deal with ostensibly, overseeing the welfare to work, which is welfare, people to work, and also the WIA, which is the Workforce Investment Act, which are non-welfare people being trained for jobs. And one of the biggest problems there is that there really isn't sufficient follow-up once the person finishes the training component. And even if you get them a job, I think we have to follow them for 90 days, but after that,
right.
And then anything can happen, and there's no resources except maybe they'll come down to the
Right.
apostle's house.
So when the funding went, I made a conscious decision to find other funding because I just felt it was critical to keep that going. And that now has developed into this sort of housing person that we have, and she really has made incredible inroads to getting people transitional housing, permanent supportive housing that's affordable. So, and I mean, it's amazing how much more successful people are in that program.
Now, what about the relocation program? Is that still in effect?
It was originally relocation, and now it's sort of more homeless prevention.
Well, then you better change your website.
Yeah.
'Cause it says
Well,
okay.
we can't afford to
okay.
to pay the guy to
the
fix it.
webmaster.
Yeah.
Okay. Leave it that way. It's all
yeah.
right.
But basically, we get money from several sources, and what we do is we help people who are arrears in their rent, public utilities, sometimes mortgage payments, and sometimes rent security if people have to move. And it's a very, they really have to prove to us, first of all, that if we pay the rent, they're going to be able to sustain the apartment going forward. We're not throwing good money after bad. They have to prove the owner of the building. They have to show us their birth certificate, social security cards. They have to show us a payment history on public service. So it's a real intensive screening process. And then if they're eligible, then we will pay their back rent.
Is the rooming house still here?
Yes.
How's that doing?
It's doing well. That is very rarely have vacancies in there.
That's 12 rooms?
Right, 12 as single room occupancies.
And what's the objective?
The objective is to provide safe, decent, affordable housing for single men who, some have mental health issues, some are just alone and, need a place to live. And we have, Esther Roman is the sort of manager over there. She was one of the first employees she's been with us 28
Esther.
years, yep. And she takes care of those men like they're her sons. And, she cooks for them and she, makes sure, she sort of keeps a tight rein. And
you talk about the money problems, but you're not unique to the Apostles' House. I mean, I'm on the boards of other places, and the Y, the United Way, everyone is suffering.
Oh, it's terrible.
So what are your staffing levels now? And you mentioned, I believe before we started, how you had to do layoffs, which is unfortunate.
A year ago, I had 53 people working for me. Now I have 29.
Whoa.
Well, when we closed the MultiGenerational,
right.
That was a big chunk of employees because of the staffing requirements. And I've had to lay off 4 people. And my administrative staff, including myself, is now on a 3-day week, which is a 40% pay cut. After 50 years of work, and I feel poor.
Well,
thank God. I mean, that, compared to what people are living with out there,
right.
I'm very fortunate. But I would have hoped that after 50 years of work, and I, could at least retire.
Well, you will eventually.
Yeah, eventually.
One way or another.
One way. I'm going to have to work till I die.
Keel over or to find you at the desk over there.
Yes. My staff says they're gonna put one of those lifts in the hallway, and once they get me in my chair, they'll go on the intercom. It's 12 o'clock, time to feed Sandy. I'll be here when I'm 90 if
That's
God
all
wants.
right. You're still a young lady.
Yeah.
What other issues do you have? I know you have, what about the federal stimulus program?
Well, you know, I hear a lot of bad-mouthing from some quarters about the stimulus program, but we received a grant of about $243,000 to do homeless prevention and rapid rehousing. And that's basically that whole homeless prevention and relocation thing with the back rent. And we helped 700 cases, kept them in their apartments, or kept their utilities on, and ended up paying over $100,000 to public service, to PSE&G. And so that money the money does not go to the client. The money goes either directly to PSE&G or directly to the landlord.
So
that's money going into the economy.
Right.
And you know what? I was able to keep 3 people working when we had money. That money's gone now. That's why I had to lay people off. So it did create jobs, and it did put money into the community in a very small way with me, but that happened all over the country.
And now you did have a homeless prevention program.
We still do.
In conjunction with
the county.
That
money.
But you don't have used up all this year.
We've used up every penny of that money already. That's supposed to last till December. And I get 25 to 30 calls a day from people asking for assistance, and we have to just turn them away. It is, I don't know what's going to happen. I'd be interesting to see what the eviction level in the courts is, if that's gone up. And you know, it used to be, of course, Essex County was the highest, but I'd be interested to see what those levels are.
Well, it's funny. You know, the county executive and I go back a long time, back to at least 1990 when he became a freeholder. And personally, we like each other a lot, but I battle, as I've battled every county executive since Shapiro, when it's necessary. But when I did this interview with Fox News, I was starting to tell you about what you hadn't seen. You know, I was critical of the zoo, the attention of the money and the human personnel on the zoo, the golf course, and all, and the lack of attention to social services by the administration. It's not just this administration. It happens in the cities. It happens. It's a much tougher issue to get your hands around. It's easier to build a building, make a habitat for 2 monkeys, one of which is geriatric when you get it, and wants nothing to do with the male one. And they're supposed to breed, and she just
get out of my face.
No, it's kind of I'm used to that. So the problem, hopefully, we can start getting the governments to understand as well that it's not just creating jobs; it's a whole panoply. That poverty, I forgot who it was. I just saw a famous quote. I think it was Aristotle. Not that I read. It was somewhere on the internet. But he said basically poverty, simply put, breeds crime and social
Gandhi
issues.
said poverty is the worst form of violence.
Yeah.
Because we are damaging people, and what I see with this push toward austerity is taking away everything that would allow people to move forward. Pell Grants, health care, and then shaming the people because they don't have anything. You've taken it away over here, and now you're berating people because you took away their ability to move forward. And sometimes I just have to turn the machine off because I just can't stand to listen to some of the hypocrisy out there in blaming the victim. As I said before, the women I talk to every day, the first thing they say, I want to go to work. they don't like having to tell their children, I can't afford to get you what you need to go to school. I can't afford to take you to the movies. I can't afford to take you out to Burger King, even to that point.
Well, that's not such a bad idea. Being a
Well,
vegetarian.
I know, being a vegetarian, but
Maybe
still,
somebody-
you know, and if for no other reason, look at it as to the effect it's having on children.
And they're going to be our generations to come, and it's going to be perpetuating the same kind of issues.
Yeah, and I mean, when I hear some of the stuff coming out of Washington, and I despair that people are ever going to see, and I despair of the good people who are sitting by doing nothing, and not getting engaged, and not getting angry. You know that T-shirt, if you're not angry, you're not paying attention. It's
No, I missed that one, but it's good.
yeah. But to go back to the county a minute, you know, if you look at the county funding of social services, most of it is a pass-through.
Yes, meaning, explain that. That
Okay.
means it's coming
Meaning it
from,
comes from the state or the federal government,
Right.
and the county administers it, but the amount of county money in those is minimal. And there are other counties that do more, especially with the creation of affordable housing.
Well, you do have people on their own doing stuff like
yeah.
that, such as Pat Morrissey with Hands.
Oh, wonderful
Up in
program.
Orange, you know.
Yeah, and there are some really good nonprofit, for-profit developers who are working with nonprofits. We're working with a group called Parkman Capital. There's this very large building over on South 10th Street in Newark. It's been vacant for years and years and years. They have, excuse me, they have site control, and they're going to be doing the renovations, and we're going to be doing the social services. The partnership between the private developer and the nonprofit is like the best of all possible worlds, because we can bring some HUD funding to the project, some services to the project, and they bring their expertise in development, which is like another world to me. I have no idea when they start talking about pro formas and the low-income housing tax credit. I know what it is. I know the application's about this thick. I couldn't do it. Apostles House couldn't do it.
Right.
So the answer is to partner with a for-profit developer.
And this makes it more attractive, therefore, to other funding sources. Like if you,
Yes.
you write grants off of that, or grant
Right.
applications off of that.
Right. And it also, the funding we bring may not be a lot of money. Like it could be a $2 or $3 million project, and we might bring $400,000. But that $400,000 is gap funding, it's pre-construction, it's acquisition. So it makes a very, very, if you find the right developer, it can be a very pleasant and profitable in the sense that it develops the kind of housing we need.
You know, the sad part is since we've been around forever, we've come so far since the 80s when you had the motels, like the Lincoln, and I think they just shut down the Carlton.
Did they?
Yeah, I think they sold it to PSE&G.
Oh,
They're going to do something
yeah.
with it, either a parking lot or
Well,
another building.
that's a good thing.
It's just as well. But what do you need for the people out there to do for the Apostles House? Go to the website.
Go to the
Jerry,
website,
our producer,
yes.
will put the website up.
I'm going to be perfectly blunt. We need money, but we also need
Volunteers.
volunteers.
Well, Sandy, I love you
David,
dearly.
a pleasure.
Okay?
A pleasure.
It's good to see you again.
Yeah.
And thank you for being a guest on Labor's View, and we hope you like the show. I'm David Weiner, and we hope to see you soon.
I have a voice. My union speaks for me. I can be sure